Chopsquad DJ here checking in, and I'm going to give you a deep dive into creating your first few phrases on the brand new FANTOM-0 series, and I got in front of me the FANTOM-0 From a cold start, you'll be presented with the scene select mode, which will basically be you being able to choose from your initial tones. So everything on the keyboard is categorical, which means it's self-explanatory, but it's broken into individual categories. So starting from that category, I'll start with just specifically getting together a pattern. That pattern can turn into a scene, and a scene would be a collection of instruments. So starting off, I'm gonna pull off one of these amazing SuperNATURAL pianos. I'll be starting from my initial scene view and move on to single tone view, which will be the fourth button over on the right-hand side. It'll pop me right into my piano, starting with the amazing SuperNATURAL pianos. I'm gonna actually go into it and pick an individual tone from one of the many SuperNATURAL pianos that are built in. I'm gonna start off with a regular concert grand. As I pick my sound, I'm gonna go to enter. And I'll just play around and kind of start building simply. So I'll focus around a 1 or a 2 bar measure phrase. Kind of like that. I'll start by setting my tempo. There's a dedicated tempo button. So I'm gonna type in my 36000, and there we go. We have 136 as my tempo. So from there, after I got my phrase or my 1 or 2 bar measures, there's a pattern button, and you use that pattern button and it kind of goes to the pattern arrangement, which will be the beginning of you completing your phrase. So this pattern arrangement is where you'll lay it down your entire phrase at. So I'm gonna start my piano like I just did at that 136 BPM. You have 2 ways that you can create in here. You can go directly from the TR record, or you can live play and play it out based on the measurements. As you go to your pattern mode, I have my piano still up. I'll go to push my record button, and immediately you will hear the tempo. So you'll hear the BPM going. It has a 4/4 time signature, and right now, when you first bring up the window, it would have you as an option to have a count in. It says none right now. Personally, my preferences will be a 1 measure count in, and from the record button, I'll go into having an immediate countdown and play my phrase. It'll automatically, as you see, it automatically loops. It'll automatically go through and it'll continue your loop. I think I'll go with that, and then I'll just build on top of that. I'll move on to the left side of the keyboard where you have your mixer, to where you can pick your zone select and go into more detail on the individual instruments, and they're assigned automatically to the mixer. That was my first instrument. I'll probably go play it back a few times, kind of catch the vibe, and then I think I'll just go with a string. As I pick my second instrument, I'll go to my track 2. I push zone select to be specific as far as I wanted one individual sound instead of stacking my sounds on top of each other, and I'll go to the strings. So from here I have the strings. Here's that countdown. I have my strings placed on the second channel, and I can just take this mixer and equalize the value accordingly. So while it was just a little too high, I'll cut my piano on 1 up and kind of bring down the volume for my strings. You put it all together. Okay, as you see in there, I'll move on to my third instrument, which I'll be on my mixer side. I'll press 3, which I'm still in zone select mode, which lets you individually choose your zones within inside of the scenes themselves. So I'm at 3, maybe I'll go for like a flute. I kind of like that, I like that. Right now, I'm gonna pull up that flute. I'm gonna use that as my 3rd instrument, and I'm gonna go push pattern again to go back into pattern. So now I have the pattern menu up that allows you to congregate your clips, and then I have the flute playable on the keys themselves. So I'll play that together, I'll play the pattern itself and play a little bit over until I catch the vibe that I feel like will go perfectly complementing the piano and the strings. And with the convenience of the mixer on the left-hand side, I'm able to just cut that down and let it blend in a little bit more with the rest of the instruments so it won't be so overpowering. I like to kind of play around with the dynamics, so I think I'll just, for my 4th instrument, bring inside a bass. So I'll push 4, which is coinciding with the 4th track inside of my phrase. I'll go to bass, I'm on the right-hand side, and I'll press it again to bring up the entire menu, and it'll ask you if you want an acoustic bass, an electric bass, or a synth bass. I think in this direct instance, I'll go with a synth bass and just play around until I feel comfortable with a sound that kind of complements the other 3. Push pattern again and go back into my clip mode, and then I'll press record again for the 4th instrument, the same process I did for the other 3. So all of these are built-in sounds. These are all sounds you get right up out the box. The velocity and the aftertouch in the keys feel really natural and feel really easy to use. The navigation for the menus are really simple to understand. If you ever want to go to your actual main settings and anything on the board, you can go to your menu, which is the 5th button at the bottom. You push menu, and every menu from tone edit, effects edit, zone edit, scene edit, arpeggiator, anything from system to mixer is built inside of this menu. For the 5th and final thing I'll go into, I'll probably talk a little bit more about the step sequencer and the natural TR record that Roland is, of course, known for. So I'm still in my zone select on the left-hand side, and then I push 5, and it'll go to my 5th instrument. For my 5th instrument, I'll go into the drums. If I press drums again, it'll pull up into the category. I stroll all the way down, and I'll go to the TR-808 kit. Now, I'm using all built-in kits, no custom-made kits. This is everything fresh out of the box, something that you can do right here as soon as you cut the keyboard on itself. From a cold start to creating a song, as you see, it's all laid out for the keys for me. The entire real TR-808 kit. So the TR record, it'll bring me to the step sequencer that is directly associated with each sound. The mixer track lets you live, hands-on, get to the volume of these sounds. I'm on my 5th instrument, like I said. And as you see, I'm using the TR record step sequencer that's built in. And this is just from me using the step sequencer built in, no external gear needed, all in one workstation. Maybe you have something inside of your scene that you didn't want to necessarily have. So inside of my actual scene, I say, well, maybe those strings aren't necessarily as vibrant as I wanted, or maybe there isn't enough movement going on in the strings itself. Maybe the bow I feel like should be changed or anything. So what I would do is I would want to swap out one of the instruments, right? If you look at your mixing track, whatever track you're always on is lit up by the light that's corresponding directly above the fader. So above my fader, I have track 2 that's lit up, which corresponds to the strings that I just had, right? So I'm going to swap them strings out and I'm going to go into the synth pad. If I double tap the synth pad, it'll open me up to every synth that's inside of the actual keyboard. I would go synth 1, synth 2. I double tap the synth button and now I'm launched into the over 2,000 different synths that I have inside of here. So it has all of your built-in LFOs that you can manipulate and also kind of make your own using the custom faders. It has the ADSR built in the keyboard, which is right above the mixers for any instrument. So if you want to go in and create your own individual tone, you can affect the ADSR to wherever it fits whatever environment you're working in. I'm moving this string to a synth patch. I'll go further in. And I'll go and let's say maybe I didn't want leads, okay? So I would go into pads and replace that string I just had with a pad. So if you go to your pads, you have 3 different tabs that allow you to kind of manipulate. You have the synth regular pad, you have the bell pads, and you also have the poly key pads, okay? So I'll kind of navigate what's inside the actual synth pad and slash strings, which will kind of give me my ambient, dark, broad sound that kind of gives the space needed to create that perfect environment for the vocals for a beat. So I'll go and find my perfect pad. Now, directly above my corresponding ADSR that it says, it also has a second function. See, the magic button on this keyboard is the shift button. The shift button lets every button have a dedicated function, but also have a dedicated secondary function that is going directly towards whatever instrument you got. If I'm messing with the volume for the mixer track on the left of the screen, I also can use that ADSR that's right above the button for the correlation to affect my panning. Actually, I want to play with a little bit more pads, find one I like. I kind of like this synth. So this is patch 150, which is the 106 strings right out of the Z-Core, which is the Zenology core. So this patch that I just picked, the benefits of being able to use this ecosystem over any other ecosystem is the interchangeability of the patches that you create and the patches that you have inside the keyboard workstation itself. This 106 strings, which is patch 150 in this keyboard, I can take this entire patch, put an external device inside of the keyboard itself and drag it over to whether it be a flash drive or whatever you may be using. And you can take that, open up your DAW, whatever your DAW choice be is, because it works with every major DAW from Pro Tools, Logic, like I said, to Ableton and FL Studio. FL Studio being my DAW of choice. You can open up in FL Studio, open the corresponding Zenology plugin, and open that patch that you started on your workstation in your DAW. I'm on my second track, and my second track represented those strings. As you see, I replaced those strings with synth bass strings. If you go to my clip 1 that I had over here on my pads, it was my original SuperNATURAL, the great SuperNATURAL piano that I expounded on earlier. Anything that you create inside of the keyboard itself on the fly can be edited, changed, rearranged, or manipulated to your choosing, all on your creator's choice. As we kind of go into another, maybe I like that flute and maybe I want to change that flute for what it was. So right now, it's a Japanese style inspired flute, so I think I would actually go change that and make it something else. So maybe a piccolo, a regular Vox flute, pan pipe. I like the Taj Mahal flute, which is the ZEN-Core Pre-E 229 kit. I just on the fly changed that flute. which as you see has more delay built on top of it, as well as a very broad reverb that kind of gives it the mimic of a room. Also inside of this, any sound that you see, you can always favorite it and make it to where only your favorites show up. So inside the category options, as you see, I'm using the Taj Mahal flute. Right here underneath the instrument selection page, you have both a spotlight, a star. So on this keyboard, you can actually rate instruments 1, 2, or 3, and then choose which of your ratings of your favorite instruments can be navigated towards and which ones only show up. So for instance, if I decide to favorite this Taj Mahal, it's now favorited, and I give it a rating of, I wanna say, I give it a 1. So now I can make it to where only all my 1-star instruments that I favorited pop up. If I make it a 2, all of my 2-star ratings will pop up. And now if I make it a 3, all of my 3-star ratings will pop up. So right now I'll make it a 1. And now from here on out, every time I decide to have all my 1-star presets pull up, my Taj Mahal flute will pull up. There's so many different functionality and inputs available for you to choose from. You can start from the mic inputs and the line inputs to the sub out all the way down to 2 main outs, a phone out, 3 pedal inputs, including a hold and 2 controls, a MIDI in and out inputs, and of course, 3 full USB-A class compliant inputs from memory, computer, and external devices. We're all here today just to learn and grow with one another. And I'm happy to be a part of the producer community representing Roland Guitar Center to show you the brand new FANTOM-0 series.